Wait for it, and we're live. Hey, all you crazy sci-fi and fantasy fans, it's time for your daily dose of shenanigans over here at the Blasters and Blades podcast. Just a couple of nerdy veterans and one chaos coordinator geeking out over our science fiction passions and fantastical fantasies. A place where magic is king, the sky is the limit, and space is the place. We are the podcast that puts the fun in dysfunction. So without further ado, we're going to let our guest, Mr. Chad McCoskey, introduce himself to our listeners and viewers at home.
Hey, I am Chad McCoskey. I am a regular dude, old guy, trying to be a writer, having some fun at it.
Old is relative when you get past 40, so we'll just go with it. I'm just saying, did you watch man make his first steps on the moon?
No, I'm not that old.
Then you're not old. We're good. All right. So with that out of the way, normally this is where I would tell you how I first found them, but since Nick sent this guy to the schedule, I'm like, hey, interview this guy or else. Nick, how did you find him?
It's a funny story. Somewhere in the late 90s, I was kidnapped by a cult and had to face judgment whether I could be brought into the cult or not. And Chad was there, and his brother, and our friend Rich, and his sister. Not Rich's sister, Chad's sister. So it was a council of McCoskies, and they all gave me the thumbs up. And then we were friends ever since.
I mean, I've heard of a council of cardinals, but not a council of McCoskies. Now, so the council of cardinals is asking.
Oh, they're scarier. They're scarier.
The council of cardinals wants to know if we go to alien planets and we find alien life, what the line is to determine whether they are sentient creatures and that's brothers and sisters in whatever faith doctrine you choose to believe in, or they're space cows and we can eat them. So, sir, do you eat the space cow or do you make friends with it?
Oh, I think I eat the space cow.
That is the right answer. The only answer for the Blasters and Blades podcast. We make steaks. So the real question now to determine how manly you are is, how do you take your steak?
Rare or medium rare if I'm in a restaurant because they don't know how to cook steak.
That is the absolute perfect answer, Nick. He's been known to make people disappear. Whitsec, I'm sure, when they give the wrong answer to that question. He takes it very seriously as the son of a cattle rancher.
I can imagine.
Yeah, but since he's an old good friend, I'll just do a couple of keystrokes instead of.
Oh, that's nice of you. So,
yeah.
What's the perfect pairing with a steak for you? For me, it's loaded mashed potatoes or loaded baked potatoes. Either is acceptable. Steamed broccoli, seasoned with sea salt and a little bit of butter.
I take it a little more simply. My doctor said stay away from potatoes. I try really hard to do that. French fries are still brutal for me. But I usually like a rice. And
your last name is McCoskey. How are you going to stay away from potatoes?
I know it's tough, but the doctor rules. So
what you're saying,
rice sometimes.
So what you're telling me is the doctor has revoked your invitation to the Shire. No potatoes.
No potatoes.
Good God, I might. I don't know that I could live that life, Nick. I could do a lot for love, but it isn't that.
I don't know. Rice, if it's a rice pilaf, that's usually pretty good. If I can't have a baked potato, they don't offer it. Some places don't offer a baked potato, I think is weird. But then you get some seasoned asparagus with green beans with sea salt, butter, maybe some oregano and garlic salt on there too. That's good. And then with a nice rice pilaf, and then maybe throw some butter on top of that. Yeah, I mean, it also depends on the steak, where you're at in the world, blah, blah, blah. Everybody's got their own sides. But, yeah, rice pilaf's acceptable answer.
I do like some red beans and rice. I did for dinner today. So banging grilled chicken with some red beans and rice. You can't top that. So I needed to cut calories for the day because I enjoyed some Spam at breakfast. And Spam is like calorically dense, which means I needed to cut it at dinner. But it's Spam, so it's totally worth it. I didn't used to like it, but the older I got, and I retried it. I'm like, you know what? Like, my prepper cabinet had some Spam in it. I can't let it go to waste. Let me go ahead and just try this. And I'm like, where have you been all my life, Spam? You're right up there with bacon. You're like the second cousin of bacon.
Fry the Spam, grab an English muffin, throw some cheese on top of the Spam, toast the English muffin, throw it on there. Because I had that at McDonald's in Hawaii once, and I thought it was divine.
So what I do is I scramble the eggs. And well, first I cook the Spam. I cut it really thin and I cook it like it's bacon. And then once it's done and crispy, I cut it up into like little tiny pieces and I mix that in with the eggs and with mushrooms, onions, and sometimes if I've got them, I'll throw in diced tomatoes. And I scramble that together. It is delicious. It's my doctor, my nutritionist recommended it because the eggs are also protein. Because my problem is like I need things that make you feel full so I don't overeat. Because with the brain damage, I have to compensate. And that is like the best meal ever. Yeah, and it's like for 1,000 calories, I can be full for almost the entire day.
4 eggs, 2 slices of Spam, maybe a little bit of cheese sprinkled on top. You don't have to salt the eggs. You can pepper them because the Spam's going to provide plenty of salt. Good to go.
Oh, yeah. The mushrooms are crutch, though. Like, you got to do the mushrooms. It pulls it through.
Yeah, if you want to add a veggie to it, mushrooms are good. Onions are good. Always go back to asparagus or fresh green beans. Those are always good, too.
I also like the leafy vegetables, so I have been known to smoke a cigar with mine. It's a good combination.
A glass of bourbon with it. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Cigar, bourbon, eggs.
My doctor is not on board yet with that counting as a vegetable portion, but he just doesn't know the science yet.
That's because doctors are selling you disease, not a cure.
Absolutely. All right, we've lost Chad. He's like going into a food coma just hearing us talk about this stuff.
Sounds like breakfast.
He's actually he's an amateur chef. He's a really good cook.
Nice.
So he's digging it probably is more than you give him credit for. He's like, yeah, that's actually I would do this and probably maybe add some of that.
I am not at the point
judging us
because I'm colorblind. I can't do things by color, so I'm very meticulous with my recipeing. And I've got a meat thermometer now, so I check the meat. So I don't do what they call in the South measured with love or cooking with love, where you just throw a little bit of this and a little bit of that. I can't
cooking with your heart.
Yeah, I got to measure that crap. I got to science the crap out of it.
I will tell you, my kids hate that.
She measures
hate
with the
that
heart.
plan. Yeah, measuring with the heart. They ask me for a recipe. I'm like, I don't know, a little of this, a little of that.
Yeah, my stepdad's like that too.
By smell, like she does it by smell. Also, she's like, "Come here and smell this." I'm like, "No, that smells right." She's like, oh, "Okay."
So like,
I'm cooking, she's like, "No, you need to add salt."
I've talked to a lot of guys that served when we were over there, Nick, and a lot of them tell me their sense of smell's jacked too. So I don't know. Like, I don't know if that would work for me.
Same. Yeah. If it doesn't smell like JP8 or Mogas, right. I'm like, smells fine to me.
I never understood that line. I love the smell of napalm in the morning, but I get it now.
Yeah.
So, all right. So with that out of the way, this is the Blasters and Blades podcast. So we do have to do the religion question, and there are wrong answers to these. Are you ready, Chad?
I am ready.
All right. Star Wars, Star Trek, or Firefly?
I think you're going to hate my answer, but it's all three.
That is the acceptable answer. Plot twist, there is really no answer that's wrong for those three because all are acceptable. I mean, Star Wars definitely stumps Star Trek. Unfortunately, Star Wars only did three movies, and so we kind of wish they'd do more. But one day George Lucas will come back and give us like the sequels we deserve.
Yeah, I mean, you get Part A and Part A1 and Part B and Part B1, and just kind of the continuation of the same movie.
I did enjoy I did enjoy the Clone Trooper. Was it Clone Commandos? The cartoon that they did.
The Clone Wars, yes.
Clone Wars and Rebels. Is that what it was called?
Yep. Rebels. Yep.
Rebels.
Those were actually good. I didn't like the movies, like the live action deal, but the cartoons they put out were nice. I really enjoyed and there are ones you could watch with the kids, and there were kid level themes, but as an adult, you could see layers. Like
and what I liked about Clone Wars is that it was set like a 1940s science fiction serial. How it started each episode.
Yeah, I really like the
Republic battle formed,
and I really like the story arc with the deformed clone trooper who like the other guys kept around because he was family, and his heroic end.
Task Force 99.
Yeah, that was.
Yeah,
I'm just saying it was emotionally moving. Emotionally charged, we'll say. So, all right. And because we are polytheistic here at the Blasters and Blades podcast, Game of Thrones, The Wheel of Time, or Chronicles of Narnia?
I am not a big fan of Chronicles of Narnia, although I've seen the shows, movies, and so on. I think I'm looking forward to the movie that's coming out or the show that's coming out. But I'm going to have to say Game of Thrones and Wheel of Time. I think those are tops over those. And of the two, if I had to pick one, I would probably say Game of Thrones.
Okay, book or show?
Well, given that Martin can't seem to finish that series up, I've got to say I like the show. But the books were pretty solid. Read those too.
All right. And so one of the crying shames of adulthood is people stop asking you the important questions. So we are bringing that back. So what's your favorite dinosaur?
I like the big beefy boys. I think I would say a brontosaurus.
Yeah, it is.
Lumber around, eat whatever they want, as long as it's a vegetable. And then they're not messed with much. They're too big.
What you're saying is they're too big to fail?
Well, I wasn't going to go there, but since you did, yes.
All right. And since we are civilized human beings here at the Blasters and Blades podcast, we even drink with our pinky up. We are no longer knuckle dragging troglodytes. So coffee or tea, and how do you take it?
So I would have said a year ago, all coffee, black if I'm out, a little bit of cream if I'm at home. However, I happened to travel across the pond last summer and I had a proper English tea, and it was pretty good. You get a good leaf, and the tea's nice. I don't drink coffee before I go to the office, so when I come home, I usually have a spot of tea with a little bit of cream, and that settles me as well. So I will say both, only because of my trip to England.
There you go.
Okay. So with your tea, how do you take the tea? Did you drink it straight up? Did you do it NATO style, which is what, two sugars and some cream, or?
I don't necessarily like sweet. I've always liked to taste what I was drinking. So coffee black if I was out, and tea I always used to drink just straight tea. But in England, they hit it with a little bit of cream, and so that's what I've done as well. And it's solid. Not a sweet. I don't like sweet. I still like to taste what I'm drinking. So I don't like, all the sugar sweet stuff.
So is it the breakfast tea that the English drink, the English breakfast tea, or are we drinking the Earl Grey? Earl Grey, hot.
I've had them both. I have them all. In fact, I have Earl Grey and breakfast. I have an Irish breakfast. I think I like the Irish breakfast better. It's a little bit stronger, a little bit more beefy, good flavor. So I usually sit with the Irish breakfast.
Well, the Irish is called that because
Scottish breakfast.
You got to add some whiskey or bourbon to it to make it truly Irish breakfast tea.
I forgot this. There's that type of show. Yes, I hit it with a little bit of warm up juice in the morning, and then I go to work. It's perfect.
Oh, freaking standing now.
Call that a good ones.
So, the organization structure we kind of picked for the show is the first half is kind of getting to know the guest. The second half is talking about the project that brought us here. So how did you first get into speculative fiction enough that you're like, at some point in time, I'm going to tell my own story? That doesn't start out of the blue. So you were a fan, I would assume, first. So how did that happen for you?
Fan of fiction, fan of stories, forever. Loved watching movies, loved reading books. I remember one story in high school, sitting in the first row of my American history class as a sophomore, and the teacher looking right at me while I'm sitting there with a Stephen King book. I think at that time it was Eyes of the Dragon. So that's what I was doing. But I've read tons of stuff, a lot of fiction, a lot of different setups, fantasy, comics, horror, all that good stuff. So just a big fan all the way across.
Okay. So since you're friends with Nick and he's all about the comics, graphic novels, the picture books, is that a medium you enjoy as well?
I've read a bunch of comics. I'm not as much into the comics as I could be. I have a fairly sizable collection from old 90s, early 2000s stuff. 90s and 2000s was Buffy. You definitely can't go wrong with, the TV shows there. So I read a lot of that. I'd have to look at my collection to see what else I have, but no, I'm not much into the comics much anymore.
Okay. Nostalgia
He owns
counts.
a few of mine, so it's fine.
Oh, I have an alpha. I have an alpha of yours. First
Definitely
ever
counts.
print.
Nice.
Mhm.
All right. So, what is it about the stories that appeals to you? Because obviously, there's something that you look for when you're picking what you read, what you watch.
Yeah, it varies. I'm not sure I'm a big fan of the Criminal Minds type stuff. It's got to have good action. It has to have, a solid story. Um, you get one over in a couple of things like Outlander, where they come out with the good, Scottish history stuff, and then all of a sudden it just kind of dwindles away, and so I didn't continue with that one. But yeah, overall, it just has to have a good story and kind of a good plot, and I don't even mind some of the horribly acted type movies as long as they're fun to watch. I remember once my kid turned me on to some Nick Cage movie, and he doesn't say a line in the movie at all. In a kids pizza game place, and it was a fantastic movie because it was just so much fun to watch. So, got good plot, good story, stuff like that is what I enjoy most.
So, what makes a good plot or a good story for you? Is there any specific aspect you look for?
No. I mean, there isn't a vein or a line, or there isn't anything along, that I can point out specifically. Again, enjoyable. I read for fun. I don't really want to read because I have to. So, I watch for fun, and if it's fun and enjoyable, I'm having a good time, then I'd say it's worth my time.
Okay, fun and escapism is a perfectly acceptable answer. That's why I read. I don't like it when they get too political or too preachy about even topics I agree with.
Same. Same.
The only politics I want in my book are all inclusive to the universe where the stories happen. Although I'm weird when it comes to like the politics of certain books. Like in theory, the Empire is supposed to be the bad guy, but I mean the Jedi capture babies and kidnap them from their parents. They're basically a cult, and the Empire just wanted to keep peace.
Yeah, I kind of like that gray robe Jedi thing. That's an interesting line that people have started to go down. So
Darth Vader did make the trains run on time in Alderaan. So, too soon
by stopping all train activity, yeah, and all life.
No, I like that. On its surface, it's definitely good versus bad, evil empire versus the noble, freedom-loving, republic type peoples. Which as an American, I can see where George Lucas went with that. But if you read some of the expanded lore novels, if you watch some of the new content, and you just look at it, and it's like, I mean, sometimes the empires were right about stopping some of the the human sacrifice kind of stuff, or the mutilation of the animals. Like, I don't know. I like that you explore the gray areas of the world, because there's brilliant storytelling to be had in the gray as well.
Short of total genocide of planets or peoples or whatever, they had their own sort of ideas on how to run the universe. So if the Empire hadn't done any of that, then maybe we would have rooted for them more. I don't know.
I mean, it really comes down to what your limitation of experiencing the universe was. Like broadly, if it was just the movies, it's pretty clear. If you start reading some of the novels, especially when they started getting them from like the clone troopers and the stormtroopers POVs, there's a really good fan-made short film that they did a couple years ago where this husband and wife team, she sided with the Republic and he sided with the Empire and was a stormtrooper. And like he dies with her picture in his hand because she had already been killed. Nick, you know what I'm talking about? You've seen that one because you sent it to me. But like, there's nuance in those both fan made and the expanded universe that I really enjoyed. Because I mean, one of the things that I learned, studying history in general, is the Brotherhood of the Bayonet, as it were. Like the combat soldiers have more in common with the combat troops on the other side of the battlefield than they do with the normies back home. And I like that, by exploring like the stormtroopers and the clone warriors and the Republic forces, like you see some of that. I don't know if they intended to go there or it was just a byproduct of a generation reading it, jaded by both Vietnam and then the global war on terror that lasted for 20 years. But I enjoy that they explored that. So was that something you enjoyed, or do you just like, bubblegum pop and just go with the surface level? Nothing wrong with that, by the way. I enjoy that sometimes too.
Oh no, I definitely like getting into the deeper themes and, looking for what they're kind of alluding to, plus, getting down into the meat of any sort of story and, moral. I will say that I play a lot of D&D. I enjoy it a lot. It's to me, a very good social game. I run my own games, and my players on most sessions hate me because they're challenged with moral quandaries of, who they save, who they destroy. I remember I had played with them in one session where it turned out that the orphans that they thought they were trying to save were bad and tried to kill them. So the next time that they encountered some orphans, they opened the door, blasted all the orphans to find out that the orphans were just trying to survive. It was an interesting story beat, but I love kind of delving into those moral areas. It's enjoyable, both with what I watch and
Anakin
and
Skywalker has entered the chat.
So
what a few children.
What edition are you playing?
We're mostly playing 5e 2014. I have allowed my players to pretty much pick and choose whatever they'd like. We have all of them, everything, that they have right now. The game that I'm in, we're running base 2014. So I have played, age me again, I have played all the way back to the original released version, advanced Dungeons and Dragons, all the way back there. So, but right now, the game that I'm in, I play 2014, and the game that I run, it's a combination of both.
Did 5e change after 2014?
It did. So they just released a 2024 version, and they modified a few rules and a few bits of information to kind of balance things out and make things better. I don't know, 6 of one, half a dozen the other, whether they did or not. I haven't really found much of a gameplay difference between the two versions.
I have played 2, I've played 3.5, and I've played 5, and I found the newer stuff actually less intuitive. So I actually like the older stuff, and I didn't grow up playing it. So I came into this in adulthood and had no opinion. I just found I like the simplicity of the older versions of it. It gave more room for thematic and less mechanics. So I dig the older version.
Yeah, I think there was a lot of story, a lot more storytelling in the old versions, short of 3. 3 was problematic with its setup, but 2, the rules kind of opened up, and other than the THACO, that to hit armor class 0 was always fun, but you made the kids do math, so a lot more story capabilities in the older versions for sure.
I've run a few campaigns for my kiddos, and I remember the first time they did it. I'm like, Daddy, you tricked me. This is math. I'm like, just wait. You'll see. I like the simple. Maybe it's the head injury, but I just, it works for me. Now, when you do it, do you do like tabletop, or do you do theater of the mind?
The one that I'm in right now, we're doing Theater of the Mind. We haven't had any complex encounters yet. The one that I play, I use Virtual Tabletop. I won't advertise them here, although it is a fantastic system. I think Wizards is going to probably overtake everybody, which is going to be disappointing. So I'm not sure how that's going to work, but the virtual tabletop that I use is fantastic. It's modular. It allows me to put in, user created mods. They have their own stuff that they put in. So it's a pretty awesome system.
I mean, you can pimp it out here. We don't have to get paid just to talk about stuff we like.
Oh, Foundry. Go look up Foundry VTT. It is a fantastic mod. It is unlike the other ones that charge a monthly fee. Foundry is a one-time. I've been using it for 5 years. I've paid once, and that's all I've paid. And everything that they offer is for the base system is free. They do have some premium modules and such, but the free version and the stuff that the users are creating is suitable for my use.
Now, the Foundry, is that the one who also does the 3D printing that you can design your character and it'll print a little figurine?
No, that is, what is that? Hero something. Yeah, I don't remember.
Might be Hero
Forge. Hero Forge. Yes, that's it.
Okay. I tend to use, like when I run the games, unless it's virtual, but like I tend to use like not like built out maps like people do with the 3D and all that. I am not that coordinated and don't have those level of fine motor skills to build those things in miniature. That's just not me. But I will like draw out a map and use little figurines just to give people like visualize it in 3D.
I will go you one better. I steal whatever I can. I am not creative whatsoever. So somebody else has definitely done it better than I have. So all I have to do is hop on the Interverse and search for what I want, and I'm going to find it.
Definitely counts. And you can buy some pretty compelling map packs as well.
Oh, yeah.
To cheat. So, all right. Well, we came here to talk about the Red Mist, and with a book title like that, you had Nick and I's ears burning with excitement. So before we do that, we're going to pause for a moment while we shamelessly show for the man. So Nick, air that beautiful bean footage.
Bringing characters to life in ways that resonate deeply with fans. From the vibrant artwork to the compelling narratives, each comic is a journey into a world of adventure and wonder. Join a community of enthusiasts who share your passion and discover why Apogee Comics is a beloved name in the industry. Explore bold, diverse tales that push boundaries and bring unique voices to life. From groundbreaking superheroes to thought-provoking graphic novels, there's something for every kind of fan. These stories not only entertain but also challenge societal norms and inspire readers to see the world from different perspectives. With creators from various backgrounds, the richness of their experiences shines through in every panel and storyline. Whether you're a longtime comic book enthusiast or a newcomer, these diverse characters and creators offer a refreshing and inclusive take on the genre. Looking to invest in tomorrow's classics? Apogee Comics is your source for stunning art and stories destined to be treasures. Dive into a world where every page is a masterpiece and every issue holds the potential to become a coveted collector's item. From vintage editions to the latest releases, Apogee Comics offers a curated selection that appeals to both seasoned collectors and new enthusiasts. Discover the magic of comic book collecting with us today. Bring the joy of reading to a new generation, or rediscover the magic that inspired you as a kid. Join a passionate community of fans, collectors, and creators who make every page a shared adventure. Apogee Comics, where every story takes you higher. Discover your next favorite today. Visit apogeecomics.com and take the...
All right, so we had some technical difficulties, but long story short, Apogee is awesome. Buy their comics. Links in the show notes. Did I miss the high points?
No, you nailed them. We're good.
Oh, Frankie Standing. So What is going to be the next release for Apogee? And then we'll start talking about the Red Mist.
The next Apogee release will be Quickwire, our speedster that's based in Dallas, Texas. Most of my characters are based on the West Coast, mostly in California, Bay Area, and San Diego. So we're gonna start pushing east, a little eastward expansion this time.
Okay, you're supposed to go west because there's gold in them there hills.
Yeah, but I started in the west, so it just made sense to go east, and I like Texas. So
fair. All right. So first, obviously, we are here to talk about the Red Mist. It's in the title, so it's kind of hard to mess up. So with that, I am going to show. Well, first off, can you tell us about this universe, like broadly speaking, Chad?
The Red Mist is in essence, a superhero origin story. It's in an unnamed big city. Regular dude trying to live his life, and shenanigans and hero stuff occurs. That's the big hits.
Okay, and where did the idea come from for you?
You know, I wish I could say. I've been writing for decades. Not too many people know that. I have binders and books up in hidden places in the attic and such. I have files all over my computer of started and stopped stories and ideas. This one just didn't stop. It kept coming to me. The story kept coming. It started with the beginning that is in the first few pages of the book, and then basically came in order, which I'm learning is not normal in an author's writing. But I don't claim to be an author. I have a book, which is fantastic. I only put it out because it's a good book. It's finished. I'm proud to have it finished, and definitely glad that I was able to finish it and put it out there, and got some good feedback. Said, put it out. I said, okay.
And
but decades in the making. How's that?
From his dearest friends.
I kept it secret from pretty much everybody. I still get comments. What do you mean you're a writer? Well, I've been doing it for a long time.
Yeah, okay. I was shocked when you posted it to the group chat. I was like, wait, what? I'm like, give me a link to this damn thing so I can pick it up and read it. I haven't read it yet because life's busy. I'm getting to it. It's like next on my queue list. But yeah, I'm super happy you took the leap. Looks good.
Yeah, I am too. Like I said, I'm I have various files all over my computer and binders up in the attic, and this one that's done. I actually wrote it several years ago, 2022, I think. Started putting it together and then sat on it for a year before I really started to edit. Sat on it for another 6 months before I gave it to somebody else to edit. And then finally said, you know what, if I keep looking at this thing, I'm going to continue to find things that I want to change or make different. So I'm going to put it out. I like it. It's good. I enjoy the story. So I decided to take the leap and put it out there.
There you go. Who did the artwork for the cover?
So a unmet friend of mine, Bailey McBride. She is in one of my D&D groups, has been in the group for 4 years or so. Never met her, lives in the Midwest. She is an artist in a variety of different mediums. She's an actor, although she will tell you that she's not. She has an IMDb page, so she's an actor. She's done a bunch of good art, and I liked her style for this. I liked her designs. I wanted kind of this type of cover, and I knew that she could pull it off, given what I had seen and what she had done in the past for me, as well as other kind of artwork I'd seen. So, I enjoyed the art, and that's why I asked her to do it. So.
Yeah. Did she do like a traditional medium with that, or did she use like computer animation stuff? Because it
I
looks like
I
it's like color, like mixed media.
I couldn't tell you, although I think tablet drawing, did a lot of it with a tablet and maybe some fine editing on the screen itself. Um, I didn't actually ask. I probably should have. I asked about some other things like the graffiti that's in the art. I wanted to make sure we weren't going to get into trouble with any of that stuff. The one on the left
Right.
over there on the screen. Um, Initially looked like slut, and I thought, well, that's kind of interesting. It makes sense for this book and this style, but that's what I thought at first. But I asked her specifically what that was and if she'd had any influences on this, and she said, yeah, she didn't want to get in trouble either, so she went out and searched her hometown and scoured the internet to make sure she wasn't going to offend anybody or make any enemies. And so it's all made up, which is good. But otherwise, as far as how really, she did it, I don't know.
No, it's captivating. Being an artist myself, I can tell that there are some digital elements going there, if not all digital. And the great thing about digital right now is some of the programs that we have with Procreate and Photoshop is that you can make a digital drawing look like it was drawn by hand with traditional media. The other thing I like is the composition of, usually I'm not a big fan of center framed characters, but this works. It offers a surreal, almost like dreamlike atmosphere to it, especially with the background and the foreground of the character too, and how that character is rendered, the cars and the dumpster and all that stuff. Like there's a lot going on here that's very interesting. And I think it's just like, if I saw it on the shelf, I'd probably pick it up just for the cover. Being a comic book guy, we're real big on covers. I've bought a bunch of crap books. Not saying that your book is crap, but I've bought a lot of books based on the cover and then read them. And I was like, oh man. But I've also picked up a lot of really great books that had awesome covers as well. So kudos on the cover. Looks great.
Yeah, one of the things that I found interesting that we had to play with when I got the proof for the book, it was way dark. You can see that this image is not dark at all, and it's a whole lot lighter than I wanted it to be. But match that up to the actual cover, the printed cover of the book, and it is much, much darker, which was very challenging. Because when I looked at it originally, I looked at something that looks like the printed cover, and that's what I was seeing on the screen. I used to be a photographer, so my screens are color optimized, light optimized, and it looked fantastic on my screen. I got it printed, and you couldn't even see anything. It was so dark; it was bad. So we did have to play around with it a little bit.
On the left side, a lot of that artwork is kind of darkened out when it got printed, and that might be a print calibration more than an artist one. But I don't know. It's that because I got the cover right here. I got the book, so I'm not lying. I'm not just trying to stroke my friends saying I bought their stuff when I didn't, because I support my friends.
There you go.
There are some dark things going on over here, but then again, I like this as well, especially when the central character shows up so vibrant and bright, especially with red, which is a very bold color. It really brings the focal point of your eyes right to there. It's like we know who the main character is. It's the red mist.
I will say that sometimes
to them.
Sometimes it's unpredictable. The art is unpredictable when you put it on the printed one, whether it translates or not. Because I've seen some where it looked amazing as the digital image. It looked amazing on the computer, and then you get the printed copy, and it's like, wait, that's the same picture? I can't make it make sense, but that's why the colors are very important. Yeah.
Which is exactly what I said when I forgot the first proof.
Yeah. Like there's types of inks that they use that sometimes don't translate well, and the inks combinations with the paper that they use, there's a whole bunch of variables going on there where it takes like the really awesomeness of the screen, and then it gets on, transferred onto an actual hardcover, product. And then sometimes even with this book, it doesn't take away from anything. It actually kind of adds to it. Despite the digital print of it, the digital cover looks amazing, but you add this like darkness to it, this surreal background, and things get heavily shadowed. It it really brings things out in there. And so it's what Bob Ross would call a happy accident. I think it's going to do well.
That is the art. And sometimes it does set the tone of the kind of comic book world that you mentioned. But what can you tell us more broadly about the universe where the story takes place before we dive into the characters in the story?
Well, like I said, it's an unnamed big city. There isn't, frankly, much of a universe other than we have this guy trying to live his life in a big city, aged about mid-30s. But as far as the universe is concerned, consider a New York, a Chicago, or maybe even smaller type city. While this one isn't modeled, while this one isn't modeled after anything, there isn't enough. I'm not going to say it. I'm not going to bash it, my hometown. I mean, we can't, right?
Dude, I spent 4 issues bashing Modesto and Phantom Hawk. I just didn't call it Phantom Hawk. I call it Crestview City. I put McHenry in there. I put, God, what's some of the major streets there?
Sylvan and Stanford and
like McHenry.
Yep. I got you.
Sylvan, Coffee, all those major, like 5 points or 4 points. They're downtown,
right.
9th Street. All those landmarks that are from my hometown, which was funny because I went to Bonanza Books and Comics when it was still around with a copy of Phantom Hawk, and I told him it was staged there, and he looked through it and he's like, I don't see it. I'm like, are you kidding me? Like the dude's like on McHenry. Right. Come on.
Yeah, I get it. No,
baseball. I have no idea what you're talking about. So
that is way inside baseball. Yes.
So you have the kind of generic comic booky sort of setting. So it's Metropolis, but not Metropolis, obviously, because this is way cooler. But it's its own city that exists in this world specifically. But is it like a Gotham, dark, brooding place? Is it happy, upbeat like a Metropolis? Is it somewhere in between? Like, what's the vibe? Is it grimdark, noir?
Yeah, so kind of going back to the art a little bit and it being a little darker, it is designed to be a little dark and gritty. The Red Mist works at night. Obviously, we have more crime than more reasons for his type of heroics. So it's supposed to be dark. It's supposed to be gritty. You have the glitz and the glam and the bright lights of the rich folks, but that underseated, belly that is dark and real, that is more of what the city has to offer for normal folks, normal residents that live there. They'll hit a neighborhood bar, they'll have a drink after work. There's a lot of discussion about the Red Mist's hangout of this pizza place that he loves. But it's certainly not, Pollyanna type, pretty all over the place. Frankly, if you have a dark, gritty, heroic vigilante, your city is probably going to be, seedy more so than it isn't.
Jerry muted.
Thank you. Now you can call me a boomer since I do it to you all the time.
About food in the side chat. He got distracted.
Yeah, I want a pizza now. Thank you, Chad.
I will tell you, she makes a damn good pie. I described that. I described that in detail. We talked about me being a chef, a cook. I will not say that I'm a chef, although I'm a competent cook. I talk about that in detail in the book.
Nice.
I disagree. You're a chef.
So you obviously that's the world. What can you tell us about both the Red Mist as the man he was before he became the Red Mist, and then kind of the powers he has? Because presumably, if it's a superhero story, there are powers involved. I would think.
Yeah. So at the beginning of the book, not giving anything away, first chapter 6, 7, 8 pages, he survives what should have been a fatal, horrific car crash. Unbeknownst to him, it sets off these powers of misting in essence, it's a type of teleporting, although it's a little bit more than that to me, only because there's a description of an otherworldly place that he visits when he misses. So a shadow world, a kind of a darker world, you think of smoke and fog, everything kind of in black and white and gray. Even during this car accident, he didn't really understand what was happening to him. And so it took some investigations, it took some, testing of these powers for him to kind of come to grips with what's happened to him. Not giving anything away, but there's a lot of threads to be pulled to find out things like where he got the powers, how they came about. I will say that is not something that's delved into very deeply in the book. Perhaps number 2, if it ever comes out, we'll see. But he is, a normal guy. To me, a normal guy. He went to college. He works a 9-to-5 cube dweller, government type job, and that's where he lives his life. Goes out with friends and wanders the city with those friends, and has pizza and beer and bars and so on. And then this car crash happens, and his life is forever changed for sure.
Oh, wow.
So what is the bad guy, the protagonist of this story? Without spoilers, obviously, what can you tell us?
There's actually some interesting dynamics there, and the people that I've talked to about the book that have read it, they've, well, is this person a bad guy? It seems like that person is clearly a bad guy. I think you have the quintessential rich scientist-esque type person, big business guy that clearly comes across as a bad guy, but you might have some thoughts about his morals and his designs. He wants to better the world. So is he really a bad guy? Is he only a bad guy because of the way he's going about what he wants to do? Then there's the seedy underbelly of the city, which the Red Mist kind of becomes involved with. Question came up is that person a bad guy because they're involved with the mob or not? And that's again a thread that could be pulled later on, but not really described that way. It's left up to the reader to question whether these people are really bad or not, based on how they interact with the world around them and the Red Mist, of course.
So is there plans for a sequel? You made a joke about whether it comes out or not, but presumably if this was intended to be a series or a standalone. So is this something you foresee, a sequel to and follow-on books?
I would love to have a sequel to this. I think part of the problem with the way this book was written, it came to me step by step by step by step. There were parts in the book that I got to in my head that I was like, I am not going to write that. I can't write this part. This is the part that's next, but I can't. It's not something that I can put down on paper on the screen. And it sat in my head for 2 weeks, and finally I was like, okay, well, I guess that's the next part. So I haven't gotten that with the next segment of the story, or the next book 2, for example. I haven't gotten that. I have pieces of scenes of things that have come to me, but no cohesive plot or story or where to go next. So we'll see if that happens. We'll see how much I get, and we'll see if these threads that I've left hanging out there can be pulled.
Do you think it benefited further with a visual medium like a graphic novel to put these ideas out there into the world, or do you think it would be overly troublesome no matter what medium you put it in?
I think it would be overly troublesome. Again, not having another story. I think walking through this one, it suited itself to an origin story. Frankly, when I, hit the word count, hit 90,000 words, hit 300 pages, and I hit the end of what I had in my head, I looked and went, wait a minute, that's 90,000 words and 300 pages. I mean, I'd never gotten there before. I had never had a story that had gone that long or that had that cohesive of a plot that continued. And then when I went back to read it to edit, when others went back to read it and to edit, all these sticky notes to say, well, what happens this? What about this? What about that? There's a variety of things. I mean, simply how does he get his powers is a big one, right? I mean, I will tell you that's not discussed in the book at all. So that's a pretty big one. And then the two perhaps bad people, bad in quotation marks, are they really bad? And that's other threads to be pulled. I won't spoil the ending, but there's a bigger thread there once you get to that point as well. So, I don't know.
So one of the things, we do have families that listen, and comic books tend to lend themselves to young boys that read, or young girls too. So what would you say the age range for this story is if you're at a con selling it to a parent?
I would definitely put this in a 11, 12, maybe 12 as the lowest. I scared my kids when they were asking about the book, and I said, "Oh yeah, the sex scenes in the book are graphic. It is well detailed. 20 pages of all the good bedroom stuff." And they, of course, freaked out. Didn't want to read it anymore, so I had to dissuade them of that idea. There's no overt sex in it. It's black screen for the most part. I think the biggest thing is language. Nick, you'll get a kick out of this. When one of the kids read it, she said, "Dad, this sounds exactly like how you and Richard interact with each other," which is probably some of the influence, that we have. But anyway, there's a lot of language. There is a good descriptions of violence. He is a vigilante. He is fighting crime. So there is some violence, some blood and gore, but I wouldn't say it's overtly as such. Definitely not Game of Thrones type red wedding violence.
Yeah, no gratuitous violence for the
correct
sake of violence.
Correct. I mean, you can make the argument that there's gratuitous language in it because there's some good language in it, but 30-something-year-old guy living by himself, single. Now a vigilante, he's going to say some bad words now and again.
I want his life.
Right. I made a joke at some point. I said, they tell you to write what you know, and so I kind of created a memoir, and then walked away.
That'll do it.
Which I thought was kind of funny.
So, is there anything
a memoir for the Red Mist?
Yeah, the Red Mist was my memoir.
Oh man, that if you do sequel books, you got to put snippets in there,
right,
of that memoir.
I have a couple, so we'll see how that goes.
That'd be fun. Yeah.
So, is there anything we didn't ask you about the Red Mist that you think readers would want to know?
Frankly, I really want to know if it reads the way I think it does. I like it. I'm proud of it. I wouldn't have put it out there if I didn't. I'd like to know if they, get the enjoyment out of it, the escapism to read a book, to have fun with it, which is exactly what I read for. So, is that what they get out of it? And if somebody tells me they want more, I am, I'm pretty damn close to retirement. So, I might spend my days trying to figure this next one out.
So what he's telling you is,
spoken like a true writer,
is be kind and speak your mind on the reviewing platforms. Your reviews help the right readers find the right books. So do your part. That was what he was hinting at. So I'm just going to be blunt and say, hey, go review the stuff you like. Obviously, you've talked about there's potentially plans for a sequel. You just got to figure out the angle once you retire here in the near future. Would you live in this world if you could? And would you take his powers?
Ooh,
That
question.
Yeah, I am not a big city guy. I would much rather be out in the rural areas away from people. I would take this guy's life though. I mean, frankly, he kicks ass. He is a solid dude. He has some history behind him that he still struggles with. He is kind of learning not only how to live. I mean, how many 30-ish-year-olds really have their shit together. I'm not sure I would have had my life together at mid-30s, even knowing where I was. Yeah, right. So I probably would. And then all of a sudden, you got these powers and you're like, okay, well, I don't have my normal life together. And now I got to put this one together too. So I think it's interesting how he kind of deals with that. He does have a solid friend in Paul that kind of helps him out both for their benefit as well as comic relief. Paul has him do stuff to test powers that, any good Paul type Nick friend would say, hey, yeah, go do this type thing. So
wait, my Paul book?
Perhaps there's some influence there, but I won't speak directly.
So
I can see myself as a Paul.
So, got to get away from the insider baseball, Nick. Not everyone has buddied up with him for the last 4 billion years. So we got to get him back for the readers. And the listeners.
Buddied up with me for 500 episodes. I think they have an insider what Nick's like.
Yeah. So, one of the questions we like to ask is, given that you are the god of this universe, you are the creator of all the torment that these characters have to go through. If you met the Red Mist in a dark alley, are you coming out alive?
He would absolutely kick my ass. Without no question, I would be on the ground in a puddle. He would destroy me in a heartbeat. And he wouldn't even have to use his powers to beat me up. I mean, he would not even have to use his powers to cream me, not at all. And he'd put me down and walk away laughing.
So one of the questions we asked Nicola. One of the questions we ask in the intro that I forgot is, because you're friends with Nick. So are you a veteran as well?
I am not. I think I found out very early that I was not suited to military life, and frankly, I am glad I found that out early. I did and do live a military lifestyle. My father was in the Air Force. He was killed in action way back when I was young. My brother served in the Army. My grandfathers all served. My boy is currently serving in the Air Force. So I'm definitely military adjacent and do what I can to help the military in any way, that is possible for me to do. Support them 100%.
All right. And if listeners wanted to track you down and stalk you on the social medias like one does, and get the book, how might they find you? And as usual, all of the links will be in the show notes.
Amazon. The book is on Amazon. I decided to go the Amazon route for this one to start off. I liked their design, being able to get the book out there as well as the print and a Kindle version. So Amazon, search the Red Mist, Chad McCoskey, or Red Mist McCoskey, and it comes up. And then Goodreads. I'm also over there on Goodreads if you want to ask me a question or talk about the book at all. I am looking at the Amazon authors page. I'll play around with that a little bit more. All of this is very new to me. I am, like I said, not an author. There is some words on whether you're, what you are or not based on what you've done. People will call me an author because I have a book out there with my name on it. But I don't know yet. I'm still trying to figure all that stuff out. But yes, the book's on Amazon. And then if you want to talk to me, Goodreads is probably the best place to go right now.
Okay. Nick, have you read this one yet?
No, it's been sitting on my coffee table, which is kind of my queue list. I
Okay.
just finished Felix Chance. Eventually, I'm going to get to Galaxy's Most Wanted. Eventually, I'm going to get to Gladius Leads. It was just announced today. But Red Mist is my next book, and I want to know. I want to read about Paul and see how close Mr. Chad McCoskey here captured my essence. So
I am not going to say yes or no to any of those influences, although I found it kind of interesting that other people pick those up. So I thought that was fun.
If Paul is throwing out inappropriate jokes and dark humor, then you nailed me. But we'll see. More to be seen in this. And if I'm definitely going to Goodreads, I'm going to blast you because you're my good friend and you need the critique. But
all right,
if he nailed Paul and Paul is me, then yeah, it's going to be a good review.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
And you can find us, dear listener, on our Linktree, linktr.ee, Linktree/Blasters and Blades podcast, where we're linking to all the things, the BitChutes, the Rumbles, the YouTubes, the TikToks, maybe still up in the air, the Spotifys, the Twitters, the Blasters and Blades Facebook group and Facebook page. We have our email, blastersandbladespodcast@gmail.com. Again, blastersandbladespodcast@gmail.com. For professional purposes only, people save the shenanigans from Madam Stabby Stab on the Instagram, Twitter, and the emails. Or you could support the show over on buymeacoffee.com/author J.R. Handley. Again, buymeacoffee.com/author J.R. Handley. These episodes aren't free to produce, and every penny counts. So we'd greatly appreciate it. Be sure to put in the comments on that Buy Me a Coffee that it is for the podcast, and I promise I will keep my co-hosts duly caffeinated. They will drink that coffee brand coffee till it spews out of their eyeballs, and then they'll drink it again because they're hardcore like that. Does that count as writer's tears when you do that, Nick? I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, it comes out kind of brown and drippy like coffee. That's probably because I consume too much of it despite my doctor's orders, but I have pills for that and we're good to go.
Yeah, that's doctors don't know everything, right? Like coffee's good for you.
Dude, he told me to switch to decaf and I almost killed him in his office.
Is he a communist?
I'm like, that's useless brown water.
What kind of heathen is he?
I don't know. I don't know. I was like, listen, man, coffee kept me alive in war. It's going to keep me alive after the stroke. Leave me alone. I'll be fine. I'm going to die on my own terms. I don't care.
That I do think we show our age when our running joke for bad guy is just generic communism. Are you a communist? Definitely.
We used to throw him out of helicopter. I'm just saying.
Nick, remember we talked about this. You detoxed from that. All right. Thank you for spending some.
Did I?
Thank you for spending some of your precious time with us. For my crazy co-host, I am J.R. Handley, and this was the Blasters and Blades podcast. Again, I am J.R. Handley, and this was the Blasters and Blades podcast. We'll be back next week at the same time, where we'll indulge our love of nerd culture, cheesy jokes, and all things that go boom. And because Nick said it on the way out, I'm going to tell you, if you go to that buymeacoffee.com/author J.R. Handley, you could also alternately put Nick's therapy fund, because clearly the boy's got a little screw looses, and we might want to work on that. We don't throw people out of helicopters anymore, Nick. All right, and with that, I'm going to hit the button. Don't cuss yet. No, wait.